Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Beyond the Case, which is a podcast where global leaders from Harvard Business School's OPM community join in a personal capacity and share the real decisions, failures, and mental models that go behind building enduring companies. My guest today is Carolyn Deng. She was in OPM 67 with me. She is also the co founder and managing director of BioLink Capital, where she focuses on private equity and venture capital investments, specifically in the biotech and life sciences verticals. How are you, Carolyn?
Good. How are you, Sohing?
So, you grew up in China and later completed your master's at Harvard. What were the biggest differences you noticed between the Chinese and the US education systems?
Okay, I think I was the generation of one-child policy. I don't have siblings. I wish I could have. But Chinese parents, just always put a lot of emphasis on education. I was sent to Olympic schools for training. So when I was at high school, I won the first prize in China National Math Olympics. Later, we three people formed a team, and we won the first prize in the U.S. mathematics contest in modeling. I would say, the early fundamental education in China is brilliant. When I started at school in China, a lot of times it's always about facts, it's about dates, it's about formulas. So we have a lot of memorization. So we don't have the bandwidth to be too creative. So if we do that, we may not pass the exams. So I would say, but it's a good foundation. So many kids, we can play, musical instruments like piano, violin, cello. When I went to Harvard, I remember I was the only international student for that year and for biostats. It's kind of lonely, and I totally, felt culture difference. Well, I remember but still I learned a lot. Every week we were given assignments, right? For the same assignment, there are so many different ways to do it. I can use my mathematical probability deduction. So some people can use computational algorithm, and others can use. We all got it right. I would say in the US, so it's not about what book or professors tells you to do. It's about there's no one absolute answer. It's about our own thinking. We have to draw the patterns ourselves to put in together, first-hand evidence. So sometimes we get to choose, we get to challenge or question authority. That was inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in short, like Chinese education system, it's like pretty much like a box. So the box is fixed, and we are trying to maximize and best get the most out of the box. But in the US, we are encouraged to think out of the box. I would say that's pretty a good way to put it.
Great. Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. And what were your parents doing when you were growing up professionally? Were they working a job? Did they run their own business?
My mom works in the education in schools in college, and my dad, he was like the chief engineering or the chairman of some state-owned enterprises.
Great. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you decided to pursue biostatistics, which is
Yes.
quite technical.
Right.
Despite doing that, you started your career in investment banking, which
Yes.
is non-technical to a point. So
Right.
what attracted you towards finance?
When I was starting Harvard, a lot of classmates, were so passionate about academic. Then they came to study because they love it. But I didn't know what I want at that time. There's always a difference between being a good student and between being successful at academic. Also in Harvard at that time, I was president of Harvard China Review. So now it's called Harvard China Forum that time. So every year we invited a lot of governments, business elites from China and the US. It's the biggest China-related conference in North America. I became, so attracted to the business world. I think finance was definitely a good gateway to business side, and it's pretty quick start. You get exposure to different industries, and you stick to a very steep learning curve. With zero knowledge of accounting, I got a business valuation book from friends just to finish up within 2 weeks. I flew to New York City for day trips and for the modeling test, for all the different interviews, and we have to write industry summaries. That's how I got into Wall Street.
Did you find yourself encouraged to think out of the box at an investment banking role, or was it very much by the book? When you're working on financial models or anything else that you were doing at the bank?
And I would say, because finance is a highly regulated industry and there's not that much, room we can be so creative, right? It's highly regulated. So we have to stick to the compliance to regulators. I would say at the early stage of finance, we have to more like kind of like follow the pattern to be more like by the book. But later, of course, given that we are more experienced, we have know so much about the industry, the market, we can probably slightly more innovative to be like in terms of financial solutions, financial products. We can slightly have some room to be more creative.
And so now linking this back to your education in China, the
Right.
fact that you were so disciplined and there was a little room for creativity, but more so, hey, here's how we do things. Do you think that benefited you in some way when you got your role at the investment bank in terms of making sure that you're aligned with the workflows at the company and the mannerism of doing business?
Yeah, I would say that definitely helps because like we have because in banking, right? So we have certain modeling. We have the summary to write up. We have the write up to do. I would say there's like our boss usually requires certain ways. For example, when we do our created our own PowerPoints, right? So we have to apply certain font sizes, different and certain patterns, kind of like formatted way. There's no room to be more creative that way. So I would say like because finance is very good traditional industry. It's not about in technology innovation, but it's more like traditional, which means you have to keep it to stick to the very certain way. So that's why people can believe in you, can probably more trust you more. Yeah.
And so, how many years were you at the investment bank?
I think roughly about like 6 to 7 years.
At what point in your career did you realize that finance was not just about numbers, but it was also about people and judgment?
That's a pretty good question. I think finance, financial models are very important part of investment, right? We crunch numbers, we do the math, we have financial projections, we have very complicated full blown models we can do. But those numbers, help are not everything because there are always a lot of assumptions behind the model. Those assumptions are not about fancy math. It's not about, not about just numbers. It's more related to, I would say, like human behavior, human nature, government policies, and industry insight. It really put a test on our like knowledge base and also perception. I would say like in finance or whether in finance or investment, like we have like 3 levels. The first level is about financial modeling. It's about business evaluation. It's about financial engineering, right? It's all about technical skills. So one level up is about like interpretation. We have the knowledge of like macroeconomics, strategy, and insight into industries. We can like connect the dots. We can know the story. We can create our investment thesis, and we also understand the rationale behind it. The third level, I would say, probably the most difficult part is we have to have the good understanding of people, and we have to judge their personality and characters. After all, we are all humans, right? We have our strengths, we have our weak spots. So I have been dealing with like entrepreneurs like all the time. I witnessed their ups and downs. Some people maybe they had very good starts. They are the star companies, they are the star teams. However, if like ego, got in the way, so a couple of bad decisions may lead company astray. So some people like started with very little, but step by step, they are very adaptable. They can grab all the opportunities. That's how they still can make pretty good in the enterprises. I would say like there are a lot of things that can contribute to the success of the company. But very important, skill we need to have is to how to read people, right? When we hire people, we have to judge, evaluate their characters, to evaluate culture fit. When we have, counterparties, we also have to evaluate people, evaluate the founders and the management teams. I think that's very probably one of the highest form of like investment or finance.
What was your work life balance situation at the investment bank?
I would say that kind of pretty tough. And we used to joke about it. It's like we are like PNG. What is PNG? Pack and go. We just constantly on the road, a lot of travels, right? We were pulling like long hours. It's quite intense, I would say. Yeah.
And so, at what point did you decide to venture out by yourself and start your own fund? And what motivated you to do that?
Okay. So from sell side banking to buy side, I think first it's a matter of choice. It really depends on personality. A lot on the sell side, we had a lot of social events, activities, and we simply facilitated the transactions. I think later it's became like more of like repetitive routine for me. But on the buy side, I would say, every day is different. So something comes up new. We keep learning about industries, new technologies, and new companies and new business models. I would say it's pretty fascinating and can be a lifetime career and also less dependent on platform. I remember my business partner and I, co-founded our fund about like 5 years ago. My business partner, we had known each other for a few years, quite a few years. We first met through one deal we were both on, and we were the major shareholders. At that time, he was the head of healthcare of a mega fund in China, and I was the head of PE at an investment bank. He went to Wharton, I went to Harvard. He started his career in consulting McKinsey and also won venture capital in Silicon Valley. But I started, from Wall Street. So I think we shared kind of like some part of, core values. But at the same time, we have very complementary, skill sets. It's a good match. The we also have worked probably, in finance or in like investment for a few years. And I think we were at the right age. We have also our limited partners, the client base. We had good deal pipelines. So we decided to start our own fund. If we want to do it, we got to do it right now. We all agree that if we hadn't done it that time, we might never, step out of our comfort zone, because people, become more risk averse, as we get older. So that's really the good timing.
How did you go about raising capital for the fund? How did you identify your first few investments? Could you walk me through that? And also, how much are you managing today in terms of assets under management?
Currently, because we started like 5 years ago, but a lot of companies we invested back then already went listed. We had a pretty nice DPI and exit deals. Currently, in total, AUM is probably about like close to $2 billion right now. It's our first time fund, right? About capital. How we did the fundraising is that we all have our limited partners relationship before. We made money for our LPs. That's why they trusted our judgment. They trusted our capability. That's very important. So they are the corner investors of your fund. So basically, we knew each other for years. They don't need to a lot of pitch. They don't need like to see a lot of more evidence. They just trust you.
When you look at biotech or life science investments, what
Right.
matters the most to you? Is it the science, the team, or is it the market?
I would say it really depends on stage. For early startups, I think like people and the science matter most. If you bet on the right people, the right technology, right, they can create a whole new market. It's gonna be revolutionary. But for growth stage, late stage, even buyout, market becomes really important too, because at that time the valuation is a lot higher, right, and the exit can be very difficult. Here we look at the two definitions of markets. The first is the total addressable market. That's the TAM. That decides how big the pie can be and what's the upside. The second market is about the capital market. What is capital market? For example, it includes like stock market, the bond market. Industries, they follow their own cycles. So it will be priced in and reflected in the stock prices. We don't want to invest in it when there's so much hype in it. As investors, we always want to buy cheap and sell high. I would say market there is very important too.
What does progress mean to you today as opposed to when you started your career?
I would say, when I first started my career, right, we were really young, right? We have high energy. I would say we were always trying to put a lot of stuff on our plates. We are keep going, keep learning, keep doing a lot of stuff. We are like, we don't want to be alone. We just want to do something. But here, after the transition, become like investor, professional investor, I think it's not about, how many things on your plate. It's about if you can put the right trigger, you can make the right decision. Instead of adding a lot of stuff on your plate, we do the other way around. Less is more, and it also helps keeps you more steady, peace inside and more balanced.
And as an investor, you must be trained at thinking very long term and making
Right.
decisions and bets which are long term in nature. So, times when you're investing in early stage companies, there's limited data that you can go off. So, how do you derive the conviction to still make a decision which you can stick by for decades, if not years?
Because in biotech, in tech, so a lot of things are new, right? We don't have historical, past patterns, historical samples we can look into. We have to keep learning about the new trend in the industry. So we don't have much financial data to crack it because it's like too much assumptions over there. Uh, there's no point to build a beautiful, complicated, sophisticated business models, right? Or the financial models. What we do is we go out, we speak to the experts in the industry, right? So we want to capture the new wave, the new trend. And we also speak to we also conduct interviews with the management teams. We interview probably over 100 management teams within a year. So we talk to a lot of people. So we get to know who is gonna probably have the highest likelihood to be successful, given the resources they have, given the technology, their stance, right, the positioning in the industry. So I would say it's a lot of factors, a lot of things that contribute to our decision making.
Have any of the companies that you invested in failed as of today?
Yeah, of course. I think everyone has, probably it's gonna be 100%, right? I remember we invested in one company in Germany, and that's a consumer based company before, but and also related to the travel industry. That company actually was doing pretty well, and a lot of the mega funds had been speaking to them about investment. But something happened, like the pandemic hitting in 2020. No one is traveling abroad anymore. The whole industry, suddenly stopped. So because that company benefits from the traveling from cross border travels, right? So because of the pandemic, so there are no tourists anymore. People just it's everything just stopped. I think that stayed for 3 years and 4 years, but it's very difficult for a company as a startup. So I would say that investment is I would say a bit sorry about that part. Yeah, but
Absolutely.
yeah, but still there's things happen, right? So the tail risk, pandemic is like a tail risk. We cannot expect that. So yeah.
And what is your process once you see that a company is winding down? What do you do internally? Do you look at your memo from when you invested in the company to see which of your assumptions held true, which did not? What is your, I guess, reflection process like once you realize that a bet you made did not work out?
Right. I would say, in hindsight, we we did look into how we made the investment decisions by them. Something is can be controlled, but something is out of control. So what we can do is just to do the best, get the best out of all the things we can control. But something still still at risk. But when the things go start going south, I would say I'm not a passive kind of person. So I would say for the company like technology company, right? So I would say I try to find them the buyer, right? Trying to find a strategic merge, the deals to happen, right? Merge acquisition. Still trying to find the best solution and exit the deals and try to get the best out of the outcome. I would say that's the best we can do.
Certainly. Uh, Talk to me about what made you apply to OPM and participate in the program.
Like I have always enjoyed being among the smartest people, right? So I would say OPM, are great cohort people. We have very diverse backgrounds. For example, some OPM classmate, running blueberry or orange business, right? The biggest supplier to global food and beverage business. Some people are third or fourth generation of family business, like shipping, energy. global trade. And some people are pretty young and they are like continuous like entrepreneurs. They are starting their startups for the third or the even fourth time. I would say like the whole experience gave a lot more meaning to success. It's no longer about academic degrees. It's not about just about the rights you were born with, right? Most importantly, you learn from these people. It's about like curiosity. It's about perseverance. It's about the ability to keep learning and keep growing. I find some people, pretty enjoy, being on stage, are very good with spotlight. Some people are good like observers, and like we are like the deep thinkers. So we prefer staying behind stage. There's like Chinese motto: you don't have to ask a hero where he comes from, which means there are so many ways to be successful. At the same time, I think like we stayed together, like had class together, had meals together, hang out together for 3 weeks in a row. We don't have so many opportunities, to get to know people this way since we left college, right? We learn about each other's struggles. We learn about each other's transformation stories. Maybe the business volatility, maybe it comes from like the family issues, health. So we resonated with each other. We agree, right? No one is perfect. And success doesn't come through easily. Don't take things for granted. So we just keep keep spirit up and be happy and show more appreciation and empathy. Everyone has his own or her own story. We may feel lonely in our own journey, but I think we are never alone. After OPM, and we definitely come out with more confidence and a positive energy. And I also believe that we are gonna form some lifetime partnership or friendship. We are gonna have friends all over the world. That's pretty amazing.
It's very amazing. And you're absolutely right. It's very lonely at the top. Most leaders don't get to speak so openly with other leaders, but spending 3 weeks together in some
Absolutely, yeah.
environment is just a beautiful experience. Very well said.
Yes.
Is there an idea or a thought from OPM that has stayed with you? Maybe something that a professor said, or participant said, or a case that you read?
I would say I think the Harvard like the education here, right? So it's really they really care about they really care about the human nature. We try to understand human nature and try to understand it, right? So that's why we try to get the best out of people, right? We all have our weakness. Still, we try to get the best out of people. That's why when we are like running our own company, setting up a new company, culture is very important. That's something I learned from class. That's very important lesson here. And then people always like people who are like themselves. So the same people with similar personalities stay together and work better together.
Being an investor means that you have to adapt with the new trends as well, right?
Right.
And what's new right now, and make sure that you're able to make a bet on it. That means you have to be able to unlearn what you knew before and relearn what's going on right now. How do you find that journey, given the background you shared, the fact that you grew up in China where there was a very disciplinarian environment, but then you got remolded at Harvard? How do you see that benefiting or not in your current roles? Could you speak about that?
Say like people around me, like myself, and my people around me, we are pretty like quick learners. We enjoy learning new stuff. We have our curiosity that's been with us for along the whole way, right? From kids till school, till college, till grad school, till like investment banking. We always have the curiosity. That's why we would like to observe and spot the right opportunities, keep learning about the new trends. And we also think it's a very interesting thing. I think it's very important that there are like we agree so many uncertainties, we know during the investments. But I think that's why the risk we have, the risk we have, that's risk and reward, right? Without risk, we cannot make the reward, right? If everything is like fixed, everybody knows it is gonna happen. There's no uncertainty. I would say like there's no arbitrage, there's no room for arbitrage. So this kind of dealing with the curiosity, dealing with uncertainty, definitely benefits my mindset, from for investment.
Is there a book you can mention which has influenced you a lot in your life?
I would say I love reading like business philosophy and history. I would say like Poor Charlie's Almanac. by Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger. That's a pretty good one. I also like the reading the history book, like the decline and the fall of the Roman Empire and stories about the Ming Dynasty, China Ming Dynasty. They're all pretty good books. I love reading about, history and philosophy.
Great. Listen, my daughter is very excited about your interview. She's been sitting next to me. She joined me.
Hi, how are you?
Soraya. The
Yeah.
last question is something you can talk to her about. Any advice for a little one, to your younger self or to my daughter maybe, that you'd want to give today?
I would say like a couple of things I would mention. First, just always try to be among the best people, the smartest people. It doesn't matter about like book smart or street smart. You can get the best training and immerse yourself in the highest standard of community, and also try to keep an open mind. It's good to be with the best people in the world. And the second advice I would say, like, try to have some hobbies, right, outside of your work, so keep your life, work balanced. For me, like, I like piano. I play piano, during my own time. Chopin it's my favorite composer and pianist. The Chopin actually, is very much, affected by the Italian opera, like bel canto. So I would say like the rubato, Chopin's rubato, makes certain notes or phrases more significant. And the rubato, I think, is the soul of his romantic expression. It makes the music feel alive and deeply personal. I would say if you can have your hobbies like dance or piano, cello, it definitely can help you keep focus. And that's very important. You can stay there, play there for hours. So it's definitely a great experience.
Thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you,
very,
Sophie.
very helpful. And I'm sure, listeners are going to take a lot away from this. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Sohing. Yeah,
Yeah.
see you next year.
See you next year.
See you.